Hello and welcome to Red Shirt Cinema Club, a podcast about fandom and making things with friends. We're enjoying a mid-season interval this week, pausing our journey through the Mailtrix series to answer a selection of your excellent mail, covering topics as wide-ranging as Twilight and the Ireland rugby team. Please keep the emails coming to redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com, but for now, let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Red Shirt Cinema Club. I am your host, Rob Pearson. We are joined today by David Jackson.
Hello.
And that's it.
Yes, just the two of us again, Rob.
Nathan Dighton is on an exciting adventure in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He's at GDC.
Yeah.
Which is why we've decided to have a bit of a mid-season interval.
Yeah.
With a mailbag special.
A glitch in the Mailtrix.
Glitch in the Mailtrix or the Mailtrix.
Yeah.
Whichever poorly conceived pun title you prefer. We've had some fantastic mail over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it's nice, I think, to be able to just take a breather and go over some of the really interesting and funny and insightful correspondence that we've had.
Yeah, well, we've come to the conclusion that many of the emails that we receive are too good not to be shared.
Yes.
It's no good just reading them.
If you saw on the Patreon recently, we even had an entire post dedicated to a particularly brilliant email that we received from Jen Kettlewell,
yes.
A long-time member of the Access community and now also a Patreon subscriber for Red Shirt Cinema Club. So thank you again, Jen, for that excellent email. And if you haven't read it, I would heartily recommend hopping over to the Patreon and having a little read.
Definitely.
But without further ado, I've got about 10 or 11 emails to get through here.
Okay.
About various different things.
Yes, and we should say, actually, he's not here, but Nathan has prepared
this.
Today's menu of emails. So you and I, and has asked us not to read them.
Yeah.
So,
I've read a couple of these already.
Yes, of course.
But we'll go through and see what kind of tasting menu Nathan has prepared.
Yes.
From San Francisco. Here we go then. This first email is from Cronin Parry, who says, in terms of suggestions, recommendations for what films, TV shows could be of interest to yourselves, the listeners, and definitely me, I have thoughts to share. In TV, I think it would be very interesting to do Game of Thrones because it has been incredible and dreadful, divisive and absolutely massive, so there is bound to be plenty of fandom-based discussions to be had. I mean, Game of Thrones would just be gargantuan.
It would be a bit big.
There are so many discussions you can have in terms of what they adapted from the books, what they chose to keep, what they chose to leave out, what they chose to change.
Yeah.
How the series got responded to by fans over various seasons. I mean, everyone loved it right up until the last season.
I was going to say, my recollection is it just grew and grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
And then the bubble burst right at the end.
It did.
But I must admit, I have been having a hankering myself to go back to it. I think I've had enough time away now that I'd enjoy a big binge.
I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot of TV.
Whether or not on the podcast, I think I'd just like
to...
I've seen just a couple of TikToks with some famous scenes, just remember this scene, and I'm like, oh, that's a good scene. Oh, that's a good character.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good bit. And I quite fancy going back and enjoying it all again. But who knows?
It was a show that became poorer for me the more interesting characters were killed.
Yeah.
Like as soon as Charles Dance is not in a thing, as we have discovered with Alien 3.
Yeah.
As soon as Charles Dance is taken away from a thing, the thing gets worse.
Yeah.
And that happened here as well.
It's a tricky thing, isn't it? It was a real trick that it had, and I accept that this is from the book, not an invention of the TV show. But it feels like the first show that one of its big tricks up its sleeve was, did you really love that character? They're dead now. They're never coming back. And you'd be like, what? Sean Bean's... No, Ned Stark. He can't be dead. I remember watching that episode for the first time. I bought the Blu-rays. I think season 4 was probably out, but I hadn't seen any of it, didn't know anything about it. And watching that episode in my bedroom, I simply would not believe that Ned Stark had actually been killed. I was certain that I was going to start the next episode, because I think it's episode 11 or something out of 12.
Yeah.
Where it happens. I was certain I was going to start the next episode, and it was going to be a trick, a dream, or something, and I just couldn't believe. And that is brilliant, but then it does revel in that as the series goes on, and then you are short of amazing characters because they're like, do you love that character? Dead.
Yeah.
Gone.
I also feel like you get to a certain point where you can read the way it's put together in such a way that you know whether you're watching a scene where someone could die, or like
there's a scene, the Mailtrix.
Yeah, there's a scene where Jaime Lannister is like charging towards Daenerys, and her dragon is there, and the dragon spots Jaime, and it opens its mouth, and it's about to torch him, and you're like, it's almost like it goes into slow motion. And you're like, are they going to kill Jaime Lannister?
Yeah.
By having him get roasted in the face by a load of dragon fire? Obviously not. That wouldn't be dramatic.
Right.
And he gets saved at the last minute by Bronn. Anyway, well, I'm only a paragraph into this email.
Well, thanks for listening to the Mailtrix.
Cronin Parry then goes on to say, also, Avatar The Last Airbender is in the midst of a return and is easily one of the best shows I've ever seen, and I know many people agree. However, if you haven't already seen the show, I would not advise picking a couple of episodes per season, like you rightly did with Doctor Who, because it is one narrative story throughout, and frankly would ruin the experience. I doubt committing to watching an entire TV show is the direction you'll go in, so I guess that one is more a pleading for you to watch and enjoy in your own time. The first few episodes may be a touch too childish. Well, Cronin, thanks for the recommendation. I won't watch Avatar The Last Airbender. In film, the Mailtrix series, which we are in the middle of doing, the Pirates of the Caribbean series, possibly some James Bond, Indiana Jones, and Twilight would all be excellent in terms of listening to your experiences and opinions, possibly not excellent in terms of quality filmmaking. I'm doing my best to not write up exactly why I think each of these series would be amazing. It's very hard to gauge how much writing is too much writing, as I know you're all quite busy people, and the addition of many in-depth emails might get a tad overwhelming anyway. There's also directors. Again, I'm going to rein this in and give just 3 suggestions.
I think Cronin needs to start a podcast.
Start a podcast, mate. Yeah. I'm going to rein this in and just give 3 suggestions. Richard Linklater, Guillermo del Toro, and M. Night Shyamalan. The podcast is wonderful. Goodbye.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Cronin.
And I really enjoyed our Lynch series, and I do think that directors is an interesting thing
I
to
do.
I think we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna do some series. We might do some more directors. I think TV shows are difficult because they're just too much of an investment.
The Doctor Who was tough.
It was.
Like, it was hard for you to get any real sense of what the show was like just from a few hand-selected episodes.
It is, yeah.
But
there's some lovely stuff there. I mean, I'd love to do Indiana Jones.
There's so many films I want to watch.
And I'd hate it as well.
I want to watch all the Batmans. I want to watch Jurassic Park, all of the Jurassic Parks.
Yeah. I want to watch some films from my childhood.
Yeah.
I want to make you watch some films from my childhood.
I want to make you watch some kung fu movies. I started to get really into kung fu movies.
I'm not
at
very
one point.
familiar with kung fu.
I'd
like that.
So many amazing ones. There's unsurprisingly, a whole world of cinema out there waiting to have poor opinions delivered on it.
But despite our slightly sarcastic read of that email, please do keep sending your suggestions. They are valuable. Yeah. They do spark ideas. We do love hearing
I didn't mean to make it sarcastic.
I did. No, I just meant that we were joking about the length of the email. I don't know what we were joking.
Well, there's lots of long emails in here, Dave. So
you're not alone.
No, we'll go on to the next one now. It's from Evan Hardy, who says, "Hello, Rob, and not Robs," which I've enjoyed.
Right. Okay, Evan, you've put your flag in the ground there.
I have really been enjoying listening to you 3 talk about movies, both the ones I have seen and the ones I haven't. I've probably never seen a David Lynch movie. Probably. Haven't you? But I still listened while doing other things around my home because you 3 make it entertaining. In your most recent Mailbag episode at the end of your David Lynch series, somebody mentioned you 3 watching the Twilight movies.
Yeah.
I remember how much hate they got at the time. I thought people loved them. People love the Twilight movies, right?
I think if you were a teenage girl, you loved them. Yeah. Or maybe a teenage boy as
I don't
well.
remember
Maybe
them
a teenager is what I'm
I don't
looking for.
remember them getting hate.
I don't remember them getting hate, to be honest, no.
I remember how much hate they got at the time, but I remember recently seeing people say that they weren't as bad as everyone said. I'm wondering if you all would consider watching famously panned or disappointing movies to decide if they were as bad as everyone said when they were new. Evan.
Well, I mean, definitely not against it. I don't know that there's a series of let's watch things that people have decided are bad and see if they are.
Well, I feel like we've already watched quite a few movies in the various seasons we've done. You know, we've watched Matrix Reloaded. We're going to watch the other 2 Matrix sequels. We've watched all of the Alien films after Aliens.
Yeah. We've watched Lynch's Dune.
Yes. You know, we've watched quite a few movies that people would... Well, a handful of Star Trek movies, which were terrible.
Yes.
You know, we've watched lots of bad films.
Yeah.
And
I'm more than up for it. I think that there is a real... I quite like watching a film that I've been told isn't very good because it takes the pressure off completely.
Yeah.
I do set my expectations too high. And it's difficult in the world of fantastic marketing and trailers and social teams. You know, the hype for things and our ability to create hype for things is probably at its strongest. And I really try. That's why I don't like to watch trailers for things I know I'm going to watch, because I don't want to overinflate my expectation and then watch it and be disappointed. So I quite like, I was excited to hear Nath say in our Ghost in the Shell Patreon episode that the new movie, which from a few years ago, he actually quite enjoyed when I had believed it to be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
That's now that's like a Goldilocks movie for me now, where it's like thought to be bad, but someone who I trust says it's quite good. Now I'm probably going to watch that now and be disappointed.
I feel like it's a good plane movie, that.
That's a great plane movie.
If you're on a plane...
That's exactly right about planes.
And the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell is on the plane.
Yeah.
Watch that, for sure. Maybe that's, what's the best plane movie?
Yeah.
Write in. Tell us. I watched the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy on a flight from Heathrow to LA once.
Yeah, that is excellent.
It was the perfect length.
Were they the extended editions?
No, theatrical
cuts. I think that's excellent.
And I started The Fellowship as we took off, and Return of the King ended as we landed. It was amazing. Anyway, next, from Mike Lalande, who says, "Hi guys. On your most recent podcast, the David Lynch Mailbag, you received an email that commented that the appropriate order for your names was Dave, Nathan, Rob, and there was some confusion as to the author's reasoning. The only thing that stands out to me are the initials DNR, which are typically used in a medical setting.
Yes.
DNR means do not resuscitate, and is an instruction to medical personnel not to attempt to revive a patient if complications occur during surgery. I'm not sure why that's appropriate, but that's my guess."
Okay. It could just be alphabetical order, that would be...
Yeah.
That would also work.
But there's also, the phrase R&D, research and development.
Yeah.
I think that rolls off the tongue better.
R&D, yeah.
Than DNR.
You don't
want to be ending on like an open sound R. Like a D is a nice stopper. R&D.
Yeah.
Fish and chips. R&D.
I'm easy. As long as you don't write in with something like
I'm not easy.
Rob and the not Robs, then
I'm not
that's
easy.
fine.
I'm quite hard on this.
Right,
R&D.
okay. I do think we opened a can of... Nearly every email we have received has had to comment on this in some form. I feel like we opened a can of worms.
I like it. Anyway, Mike goes on. This is the actual email now.
Okay, here we go.
So there was also a discussion on bad movies, with Rob reluctant to watch movies like The Room or Troll 2 based on his incorrect assumption that they were made purposely to be bad. Dave is correct that bad movies typically fall into one of 2 categories. Movies that were purposely made to appeal to the B-movie crowd, think asylum mockbusters like Atlantic Rim or the Sharktopus series of movies. I would also add the Shark Attack series to that, because I love Shark Attack 3. It's my favourite bad movie of all time. And those that are made completely legitimately by delusional individuals. The latter are the ones I encourage you to seek out, as they can be incredibly entertaining, especially when viewed with friends. For this purpose, I recommend Birdemic, not the sequels. Troll 2, The Room, Plan 9 from Outer Space, and any of the movies produced by Neil Breen. Fateful Findings is probably his most entertaining work. Poor Neil Breen.
Are you familiar?
Any of his films.
Are you familiar with Neil Breen?
No.
Okay, I think you might be. As far as I'm aware, well, I've definitely seen his work on YouTube.
Right.
And he's definitely, I feel like he is one of the few people you could say anything by Neil Breen is deluded. I want to add Blackbird to that, which I mentioned, the film by the Riverdance man, Michael Flatley. Deluded. Brilliant. I enjoyed it so much. Watch it with a friend. But I was interested in some of those titles. Birdemic sounds amazing. What was the space one from outer space?
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Plan 9 from Outer Space. What are you a fan of the whole Shark Attack series, Rob, or have you only seen Shark Attack 3?
I've seen all. I think there are only 3. I've seen Shark Attack 1. I think did try.
Okay.
It's got Casper Van Dien in it. He's like the big star.
Right.
And all I remember from that film, there was one shot, which was supposed to be the shark, and it was unmistakably a dolphin. That they shot.
What the hell's this, Steve?
I got some footage of a fin.
You said you could get me a shark.
And quite a lot of it is almost certainly B-roll that they've probably purchased from the BBC Natural History Unit of great white sharks swimming underwater, intercut with footage of people splashing about and screaming.
Right. Yeah. Nice serene sharks.
Shark Attack 3, they're really leaning into the nonsense.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
One of my favourite bad films of all time. There's also a line in it, a very famous line that I'm not going to say now because I really want to watch it on this podcast at some point.
Did you watch it because you thought it was... Did you know it was going to be bad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife and I, we this is our sort of like guilty pleasure. We really enjoy bad shark films.
Is that because you also enjoy good shark films? Like when you watch...
There is only one good shark film.
Okay. Yeah.
Jaws. It's literally the only good shark film.
I think you're actually probably right.
There was one called The Reef, which was actually pretty good.
I've seen The Reef, yeah.
But really, it's like, there's like a subgenre of shark movies which are open water rip-offs and riffs, and that is one of them.
I always wanted to see Open Water.
I don't think I ever have.
I don't think they're supposed to be very good.
I mean, there's not really much you can do. I feel like Jaws and Jurassic Park are very similar in that as soon as you've seen a movie about humans being hunted by a shark or by dinosaurs, every movie after that is then trying to find a more creative way to have human beings being hunted by a shark or by dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And they're never as good as just the first one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've waffled on there. Thanks, Mike, for that email. Maybe we will do a little mini season where, I guess I'm going to have to just watch The Room at some point.
Guilty pleasures. I mean, maybe not The Room. Like I say, Blackbirds. I want to watch Blackbird again.
Maybe we watch The Room.
The Room is great.
And Shark Attack 3.
I think that you would enjoy it now, knowing that it's not supposed to be bad. It's someone's, and honestly, I can't remember the name of what's the name of the movie that they made, James Franco and
the
Seth Rogen,
Disaster Artist.
The Disaster Artist, I think, is a really good movie about the making of The Room. It's actually, they'd be a nice little double bill. But anyway, who knows?
Moving on. We got an email from Brendan Hill. And this is an answer to the call for people who'd worked in cinemas to send us their experience. So Brendan, I believe, has worked in a cinema. And Brendan says, "Hi, lads." Good way to avoid
nice sidestep.
The lads. First off, thank you for consistently delivering such a fantastic podcast. I always look forward to your breakdowns with each new episode.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. In the recent David Lynch mailbag, Rob encouraged anyone who had previously worked in a cinema to share their weird and wonderful tales. Having worked in cinemas at 2 different points in my life, I feel I'm the perfect candidate for this. I could go on for ages, but I'll aim to keep it somewhat brief. I've broken my experiences down into 5 entries. Feel free to read them all or just pick your favourites.
Thank you for the permission.
Okay, this one is called The Perfectly Timed Reaction.
Okay.
One night, I was standing with my rubbish bag, ready to greet patrons as they left a very late screening of Prometheus. You might remember that at the end, a new alien species bursts from the engineer and lets out a scream, followed by a brief silence before the piano kicks in. The screening was so quiet that the only thing I heard in that moment of silence was a woman loudly exclaiming, "Oh my God." It still cracks me up every time I think about it.
Well, that sounds like a success.
Nice. This next entry is titled Chaos After Dawn.
I love that these little mini stories come with titles.
It's just building the tension.
Yeah.
And, this is a good title because, listen to this. One of the very first screenings of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes,
okay,
so that's
very
why
good.
It's called Chaos After Dawn, had an absurdly fast turnaround time. You don't think about these things, do you?
Not
you
at
imagine
all.
the staff, but oh my God, that screening finishes there, and then we've got to get the cinema ready for the next screening.
5 minutes.
10 minutes? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous turnaround time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Are you sure you've never worked at a cinema? That was excellent. I think that's how it is.
At the cinema. Had an absurdly fast turnaround time. We had to rush in and clean the screen immediately. We assumed it would be fine, but when we entered, it looked as if actual apes had been watching the film. Nacho, cheese, and salsa were splattered on the backs of chairs, and there was popcorn everywhere. It was absolute carnage. I mean, that's the end of that.
Okay,
entry.
not a great story, but I do. This make me think.
Not
just
a great story.
I do. It's more just a sort of a fact, a thing that happened. I do.
Come on, Brendan.
I do think though, just why is it there is a sort of understanding at the cinema people seem to have where it's like, I just tip my popcorn all over the floor. It's fine. Oh yeah, I'll just chuck the nacho cheese. I don't get it. Like, why? It feels like you wouldn't do that anywhere else.
No.
But in the cinema, it's just like, just leave that there. Someone with the bag will come round and
It's really
sort
poor.
it out.
It's really poor. I feel like it's a thing not unique to, but quite prevalent in Britain.
Yeah. Do you think so?
Yes.
Really?
You get the same experience when you go on a bus.
Yeah.
I get the bus, park and ride to and from work. Almost all the time I get on the bus at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's like just people's litter just left there.
Yeah.
The sort of blasé entitlement of it really annoys me.
Yeah.
On trains as well. I've seen people do it, just leaving the tray down in their third empty coffee cup just sitting there.
Yeah.
Someone else, the next person, someone else will deal with that.
Yeah.
There's usually bins on the way out.
I
I'm
know.
sorry, I've had a little rant now. Just
You're right though.
clean up after yourself.
Let's
for
just all
crying
look
out loud.
after each other. Come on.
It's not difficult.
No.
Really not difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Brendan would be out of a job, and he wouldn't have such a brilliant story to tell.
Well, it's not his job to clean up other people's rubbish, really.
No.
Shouldn't have to be doing that. Twilight-induced fainting. We once hosted a Twilight marathon screening every film back to back. The audience was almost entirely women.
How many are there? 3?
4, I think.
4.
And at one point, a teenage girl became so overwhelmed that she gasped herself into a blackout. We had to pause the film, turn the lights up, and assist her. Astonishingly, at least one woman was furious about the interruption and outright said she did not care about the girl. She was just outraged that we'd stopped the movie. The girl was fine after some water and a short rest. Fun fact, I have never seen so many hot dogs consumed in one day before or since.
Don't know what to do with that information.
Thanks for that, Brendan.
I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Oh, that's weird.
Wow.
Would you be? Do you think anyone's got a case to complain if their film is stopped for a medical emergency?
I mean, I can understand why you'd be annoyed, but you keep that.
What are they supposed to
keep
do?
that inside you.
What are you supposed to do? Go, we can't help you till the film's finished.
I was on a train coming back from London recently,
and
I could hear someone sort of like hyperventilating down like the carriage.
Right.
Obviously not having a good time. Someone pulled the emergency stop alarm.
Right.
Luckily, there was an actual doctor on board in the next carriage who was able to come and they were fine. But I also heard around me just some tutting, some mutterings. Ugh. We were stopped maybe for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just have some understanding, people.
And those people who were tutting, they all got up and they left half-drunk cups of coffee.
Probably, yeah. Anyway, Twilight-induced fainting. Cinemas, not that kind of theatre.
Okay.
That's the title of this next one. We often witnessed all sorts of inappropriate behaviour in the cinema. But the worst, someone having full-on sex on the floor during a kids' film.
Oh, no.
Completely naked.
No.
I had cleaned those floors.
I hope Brendan said that to this couple.
I know what state those floors can be in, and the thought still makes me feel ill. For some reason, these incidents always seem to happen during children's movies. Don't ask me why. I mean, that can't...
I was going to ask why.
That can't be true, surely.
What, that these incidents always happen during children's movies?
Presumably with children in the theatre.
Well, I mean, that is the target audience of a children's movie.
Yeah.
It's troubling.
The final entry, we've changed we're going to change the name of this celebrity.
Okay.
In case they're listening.
We don't want to...
And sue us for libel.
Yeah.
So we're going to just call him Steve. Steve versus my manager.
Okay.
Our cinema occasionally had celebrity visitors, and while most were lovely and kept to themselves, one encounter has stuck with me. We had an all-you-can-eat, fancier seating area upstairs, and one day, Steve came in with his partner. My friend sold them tickets for the upstairs area, but at some point, Steve started complaining loudly about something. I distinctly remember hearing him shout, "Do you know who I am?"
Oh, you can't say that.
My manager, unimpressed, threw him out for being rude to staff. His partner, on the other hand, was lovely and kept apologising. Hopefully, these have been a fun read.
Come on, Steve.
I won't lie, Brendan, they've been a bit disappointing.
There was some good stuff in there, Brendan.
There was some good stuff.
And then there was some other stuff. some less good stuff. The turnaround times between screening.
Yeah. Some fascinating insight into the workings of working in a cinema, which I really enjoy.
It's somewhere I always wanted to work, actually. I always thought I'd enjoy working.
It'd be way cooler than working in a shop. I worked in a shop.
That's true. But you're just... And I guess it's great. It must be great. Some of it must be great. You must get to watch movies.
You get free posters.
Free popcorn.
It just smells good in there.
Yeah.
You walk into your place of work, people generally surely are in a good mood when they come to the cinema. I worked in Debenhams, and 60% of the time, people in Debenhams are not in a good mood.
Right.
They're wanting to return something. Yeah. They're not happy you've got their size in stock.
Yeah.
They're not happy they're having to wait at the queue.
That must be why Debenhams doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because all the clients were sad.
Well, I'm sure there's other reasons. I was sad about Debenhams going.
Even though it made you miserable?
Debenhams didn't make me miserable.
Right.
The general public.
The general public, yeah.
So thank you, Brendan, for that email. Specific fandom experiences now. Gabrielle Bennett has sent in this very lovely email. Gabrielle says, "Hey guys, I love the pod. I love Access. I love everything you do. Thank you." Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you.
As for fandoms I'm a part of and how far those have taken me, it's completely unsurprising that as a musician and nerd in general, humble brag, my interests my interests have led me to different countries, concerts, tattoos, books, essays, and even a dissertation. However, the fandom I'm now heavily a part of, which has been a big surprise, is rugby. My very Irish fiancé took me under his rugby-loving wing a year or so ago, and I've since shoved myself out of the nest and free-fallen straight into the overwhelmingly large arms of the brilliant Irish rugby team.
Oh, wow.
As an American expat from West Virginia, of all places, landing on my feet in Ireland about 7 years ago, I never dreamed of how much I'd absolutely love this country, and now, by extension, this sport. It's come to be synonymous with home for me, and I'm so enormously proud of our team and proud of the many immigrants within it that make it so remarkable. Whether I can be tangentially, how do you pronounce that word, David?
Tangentially, I think.
Tangentially, I'm having trouble with it. That word, you know what the word is.
Hard T.
Related via shared immigrantness, who knows? But I've loved getting to dive into this aspect of my new home and getting to learn about such a wildly compelling sport and the community that unfolds as a result. And, quite serendipitously, my 33rd birthday, a Hobbit's coming-of-age birthday, lines up with the Lions Tour in New Zealand.
Amazing.
And as someone who's also Lord of the Rings obsessed and would love any excuse to go to New Zealand, it appears to me this sport and I were meant to be together from the beginning. Best of luck with everything, guys, and thanks again for creating a new fandom for all of us to be a part of. Gabrielle.
Well, obviously I love that because I'm a big rugby fan myself. But I mean, there's lots of lovely things in that email. But it's interesting to me in particular about rugby, just because I think rugby is quite a difficult sport to understand. And I think that puts a lot of people off. It feels like a struggle that rugby knows it has, where people tend to have to be brought up with it to like it.
Yeah, I'm not a big rugby fan. It has to be said.
It's the whistle does go a lot, and people are like, what happened there? And sometimes it's hard to explain, or I don't know. And there are loads and loads of rules. So it's great to hear somebody who didn't have any previous experience of rugby in their adult life getting properly invested into it. That's very, very cool.
I think it's from reading Gabrielle's email, it feels like it's more than just the sport.
Yes.
It's like a fandom, in particular fandom of sports teams. You get like a sense of belonging, a sense of a community, especially when, she says she's from West Virginia and now feels like she has a home in Ireland. And I had obviously not a comparable experience, but I felt sort of the same recently. I went to see my first Crystal Palace match in ages recently. I'm not from South London.
No.
But I've supported Crystal Palace for over 30 years now. And I got quite emotional going back there. It was the first time I'd been there in like 12 years. I went into the stadium really early, 2 hours before kickoff. I was like the only one there, walking up and down the stands, taking loads of photos. I could smell the turf. And also just hanging out in the fan zone before the game. Just loads of people I didn't know, all wearing Crystal Palace shirts.
Yes.
I felt very much like, these are my people. This is my home. This is where I belong. And then you get like a real sense of community from it that is very hard to replicate. So I think, a lot of people can often scoff, I think, at sports, or like getting really into a sport like that. But I don't think anything quite compares as a communal experience. Like when you're all in the crowd, when your team scores, hugging complete strangers if it's like a really important game, really important goal.
It feels weird that we haven't really talked about sport in our conversations about fandom, really.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's exactly the same, or it's so parallel to fandoms of kind of media and movies, and it's weird we haven't talked more about sport. And there's definitely a lot of
I think it's
links.
It's fandoms is often about community, isn't it? And fandoms of films and TV shows and books, it forms a community of people who typically will come from loads of different places, and occasionally you will physically get together at like a convention or when you go to the cinema. Sports fandom, especially when you think about, there's like national events like the World Cup, and you will support your country. But with football, for example, it's very much that merge of, it's like an extension of your local community, I think. So, going to watch your local football team, it puts like almost like officializes, I don't know the right word there. There's a legitimizes, or like, brings to the fore that shared local community thing. And I think in this day and age, local communities, they're not as much of a thing as they used to be.
No.
So all wearing the same coloured shirt and going to a stadium and shouting for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Therapy.
Anyway, moving on to this email from Jess Tarzia, who says, "Dear Rob, Dave and Nath," correct. I'd like to start off by thanking you for all that you do. Your podcast brings so much joy to my morning commute and often makes me chuckle on the train, which is much better than the time I cried on the train after watching the Bill and Frank episode of The Last of Us.
Ah, yes.
That's not a good one to watch on the train.
No.
I really enjoyed your discussion about attending fan events, and it made me reflect on why I enjoy conventions, so much. In Australia, we don't really get many conventions, and they certainly pale in comparison to the UK-US conventions in terms of size and big-name celebrities attending. But for me, it's not really about meeting the actors. My favourite part is the safe space they create for people to be themselves and simply enjoy the fandoms they so lovingly belong to. Some of the cosplay is incredible, and the joy of being surrounded by like-minded people is infectious. Everybody is there to have a good time, and they are free to express themselves and dress exactly as they want without being judged or mocked. I also love the sense of excitement that extends to the area surrounding the convention hall. It always makes me smile to see groups of people in cosplay boarding the city-bound train and walking the streets down to the venue and lining up for coffee in nearby cafes. It is truly heartwarming to catch somebody's eye in these instances. We may be strangers who will never see each other again, but in that moment, we are both giddy with excitement about the day to come. Even if it is a bit silly to be wearing a rainbow wig and unicorn ears as I order a cappuccino in a fancy city cafe. I was wondering if any of you have ever dabbled in cosplay or who you would love to dress up as in a hypothetical cosplay scenario. Keep up the great work and hope you're all happy and doing well. Sincerely, Jess Tarzia, Melbourne.
Oh,
That's a great email.
That's a great email. And a really good point. It's so sad, isn't it, that we have to have safe spaces to be fans for things. Free from fear of judgment.
Yeah.
Like, it's mad that you should be judged for your fandom of a thing, really. But
I feel like there would be, if I saw someone walking down the high street dressed as a Final Fantasy character, I hope I would have the bravery, I guess, to go over and say to them, I really like Final Fantasy as well.
Yeah.
But, you probably wouldn't do it for fear of getting mocked and judged. Again, going back to the Crystal Palace game, when I got the train home, I was wearing my Crystal Palace shirt and was just stopped randomly by just 2 or 3 people at various different stations who just wanted to talk about the game. Oh, how's the game? Were you at the game today? How was the game? Which surprised me. And I was also surprised that I enjoyed the experience of just talking to people I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I think, it would be nice, wouldn't it, if people could more openly, without fear of mockery.
It seems a bit silly when we just talk about it like that. But that fandoms can be mocked. Also, it made me think: is you wearing a Palace shirt a form of cosplay? Are you cosplaying as a footballer? Maybe.
No.
Maybe
I wouldn't call it cosplay. Maybe if I was in full kit. Yeah.
Full kit, definitely.
And
have you ever cosplayed or
no,
considered it?
I have considered it, yes. I've always wanted to go as Squall Leonhardt from Final Fantasy VIII.
Right.
Just because he's quite a miserable character, and I feel I could do his face quite well.
Yeah.
I'd need a wig now, obviously.
I'd be interested to know why people cosplay, because as someone who hasn't cosplayed, is it just dressing up and that's fun, or is it because you can do you think you can look really like a character? Maybe there are different forms of cosplay where some people are like, I just want to, I look nothing like.
I think there are certainly levels of it. Like there are levels of enjoyment you get from it. One being being able to just express yourself and express your fandom in the safe space with other people also dressed as either the same character or characters from the same game or show. There's also people who take it really seriously and incredibly talented costume makers and artists.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see what they make.
Definitely.
Like we've both been at conventions where we've seen some people who buy their costume online. Other people who have taken months painstakingly crafting each individual element of their costume. Both completely cool and valid, but it's also, it's amazing when you see someone with the talent to really craft something bespoke.
Yeah.
Like I've seen I'm trying to think of specific examples, but I know I've seen people who literally encased inside their own costume, and they've got animatronic components to the costume and a special voice box that makes their voice sound like the character.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like Transformers.
Yes.
Transformer cosplay.
I remember seeing a Xenomorph cosplay once.
Yeah.
At a Comic-Con, I think. But yeah.
It's really weird, isn't it? It brings so much joy to other people, like you were saying about if you saw someone walking down the street. That's the thing. And as was in the email, like catching someone's eye, ordering a coffee in a rainbow wig and a unicorn horn or whatever. It's like it brings so much joy to everybody around, and people love spotting it. People do recognize the craft in it. It is a wonderful thing.
It is great in the air, she said, in the area around the convention center.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to go to San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago, And just for 2 or 3 blocks around the convention centre, all the restaurants, all the coffee shops, just full of people in costumes. And it's like a carnival atmosphere. It's great. It's very cool. So thank you very much, Jess, for that email. I was going to say I have dressed up as a zombie cheerleader once.
Yes, you did.
From Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yeah, it was a good cosplay.
It was. And I danced with other zombie cheerleaders.
Yeah. That's on the internet if you can find it.
It is on the internet. I was in better shape then. This next email is from Luke, who says, "Dear Dave, Rob and Nath, / Rob, Nathan, Dave, / Dave, / Nath, Dave and Rob. First and foremost, a humble thank you from a long-time lurker of Access and the podcast for all the work you do on keeping us all entertained, intrigued and laughing throughout every episode of Red Shirt Cinema Club. I currently live overseas in China, and it's quite rare that we get Western films come to us, except for the occasional blockbuster from Marvel and the like. Listening to the podcast has gotten myself and my partner excited to watch films again and revisit some of our old favourites, in particular the recent episode on the Mailtrix. We often revisit the classics like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, but often overlook just how good some other franchises are. So thanks again for rekindling that fire. I remember first seeing a clip of the Mailtrix at my uncle's house during a Christmas in the early 2000s. And as a person who was much too young to be subjected to it, being absolutely scarred for life during the belly button bug and the skin over the mouth scene, absolute nightmare fuel for a youngster that I was at the time. But at the same time thinking, holy moly, what is this film and why is this happening? Fast forward a few years and I can remember seeing The Matrix Reloaded and being totally blown away by the crazy moves and explosive fight scenes. Also being lucky enough to play through Enter the Matrix and The Path of Neo later on PS2 was another huge win for me, since The Matrix was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen, and being able to control the characters made you feel like an absolute badass. Anyway, sorry for whittling on for so long. I wish you all the best, and please keep the podcast coming. It's something to look forward to every Tuesday morning here in China. A taste of home, and hearing your interesting ideas keeps my day moving forward. All the best, Luke."
Nice. It's what an interesting place to be in China, and interesting to hear about the sort of cadence of Western films getting over there. Obviously, there's lots of Chinese investment that has made its way into Western films, which is also very interesting. But I was going to ask you, Rob, about the games. I don't know anything about the Matrix video games that are mentioned there. I've never played them. I don't know if they're well regarded or bad. Have you played any of them?
Yes, I played and finished Enter the Matrix and really liked it. So you play as Ghost and Niobe. Niobe has a fairly sizable role in The Matrix Reloaded.
Yeah.
Ghost, I'm not sure he's even named in The Matrix Reloaded.
I don't think so.
He's in that scene at the beginning. He's just there with Niobe.
Right.
But he is one of the 2 playable characters. And there was a lot. I was very excited for this game. There's lots of slow-mo, lots of cool fighting.
Yeah.
Lots of doing I just wanted to do all of the moves from the film, basically.
Yeah.
And would just replay levels until I did them to a degree that I was satisfied with.
Right.
Like if I'd done it messily or I didn't look cool doing it, I was like, no, don't care that I've actually got past this level. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
There's one bit where you fight an agent in the cargo hold of an aeroplane. And I just used to love loading up that fight. I would just do it again and again and again and again, see if I could kick the agent off the edge.
Yeah.
It was cool.
That sounds
do a
cool.
slow-mo kick by jumping off the wall. I always used to try and do that move.
Was it just self-contained fights, or were you going through levels?
You go through a story. So the whole idea with Enter the Matrix is that it runs parallel to the events of the Matrix Reloaded.
Right.
So you're playing as Niobe and Ghost, doing what they're doing during the events of the film.
Yeah.
And I think the game was fairly well received in terms of gameplay, but all everyone said was, I just want to play as Neo. I just want to play as Neo.
Yeah.
So then they made The Path of Neo afterwards, which I didn't play.
Right.
But by all accounts was as good, if not better, than Enter the Matrix. There was that Unreal Engine 5 thing.
There was.
That I can't remember what it was called.
No.
That they released very recently, like a year or so ago.
It was to tie in with the 4th movie.
Yes.
I think.
Or maybe 3 years ago then.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy.
I think it was.
But I remember just visually that being unbelievable.
Yeah, I never played it. but it did. I've seen videos of it.
It's essentially just a big tech demo.
Yeah.
You just, matrix around a city.
It's fine by me.
But it's very cool. So yeah, thank you very much for that email, Luke, and I'm glad that we can bring a little bit of home, as you so eloquently said, to you in China. It's interesting to think of just someone in China listening to our podcast.
Yeah, I find it all the places around the world that we hear from. I mean, we've heard from Melbourne, we've heard from someone in Ireland who's originally from America. Just in this episode, it's fantastic to hear that. It's crazy to hear that we reach people around the world. It really is.
We are running out of time, and we still have lots of emails to get through, so I might not be able to read them all. I'm going to read... This is from Barbara, who has got in touch with us before. Barbara was the person who said we were like the three-headed dog in Harry Potter. Do you remember that?
Yes. So, yes.
Barbara's back.
Fluffy.
And says, hello, Fluffy.
Okay, right, good.
I know we are not going to embark on a lengthy correspondence, but I need to issue a small correction after you read my letter. When I mentioned Twilight,
yes.
I was thinking of Rod Serling's iconic 1960s TV show, not under any circumstances the Hot Vampires Being Sad Twilight series. I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if, due to my lack of precision, you embarked on such a guilty pleasure journey. And since I'm here, I should mention that I find my iPods in second-hand shops, an activity that is becoming increasingly difficult, but I like my music light, unconnected, and with a reliable battery. I can't remember why we talked about iPods.
Because she listens to us
on an
around,
iPod.
On an iPod, very specifically.
Finally, I have no trouble believing the story you read about English dubbing in Russia. I lived there myself and was equally surprised by their approach to voiceover translation. Instead of full dubbing, they simply lower the original soundtrack while a single actor reads over it, impartially embodying all characters. As a result, I once watched Gladiator with a highly blasé Russian voicing every role. His indifference peaked in the final scene, where the crowd is on fire and passionately screams, "Maximus!" He, on the other hand, delivered every other Maximus in the most nonchalant tone imaginable. And Russians can be very nonchalant. It was quite the experience. The Russian friend I was with thought it was wonderful. And strangely enough, you do get used to it. That is an amazing email.
Yeah.
And I now have gone from 70% not believing that story to believing it.
Absolutely.
That makes that story great.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we doubted it.
I am sorry that we doubted it. So, I mean, that's a bit of cultural obliviousness on our part there.
Yeah. I'd love to experience one of these.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Maximus.
Yeah.
Maximus.
Are you not entertained?
My name is Maximus Meridius, blah, blah, blah. Husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son. Vengeance will be mine in this life or the next. I'm really looking forward to the Star Wars episodes on your own time, and I'm very happy with the order you've chosen. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Best regards, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. We will be doing that. We will get there.
We will. Let's rattle through these. That was a great email. Thank you, Barbara, for getting in contact again. Although I confess I've not heard of this iconic Twilight 60s TV show. Have you?
No, unless it's the Twilight Zone, but I think that was the 80s.
Well,
no, and I did read this email, and that did make me laugh that we'd gone off on one about Robert Pattinson and whatever.
Well,
no, don't watch that.
We've had another correspondence about Twilight.
Several people going, yes, you should watch
definitely
Twilight.
Watch Twilight. Yeah. I think we should.
Oh, why not?
There are a couple of emails now about collecting things. This is, I can see why Nathan put these in. He loves all his collecting things. From Barry Montrose, who says, "Hi guys, I've enjoyed the Red Shirt Cinema Club since the first episode due to my eternal love of Star Trek. Through my mother sharing her love as a child, I wanted to share and show the true burden and obsession of random, which has resulted, I'm sure there's supposed to be another word in there, random stuff, which has resulted in 2 rooms in my house being overtaken with these obsessions. One of you stated that you wanted to set up a man cave at home, and I could not recommend more doing this. The pride and just ridiculous aspect of having somewhere that is all dedicated to you and the things you love. Remember, your home should reflect everyone that lives there, and I have friends whose partners say they will never have a room like mine in their house, which makes me both sad and annoyed that this should be a thing that is not allowed. I am fortunate to have married the perfect woman, Jo, who understands my obsessions even though she does not like them. herself and gets that having this space makes me happy and thus makes her happy through my joy. That is very healthy. Congratulations to you both. As a lesson to those out there that are told you are never having a man cave or even a lady lair, people need to understand that relationships are about understanding who you are married to and what makes them happy in a symbiotic marriage. That's a great perspective, I think. I hope this is not too much of a babble or rant, but I truly believe that to be happy, sometimes it's about your own personal space to celebrate what you love with the one you love, even if your wife says, I hate everything with bloody spaceships in it, lol. Thank you guys for all the great episodes and making sure that we are not alone in our love of Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings and everything else. I hope you enjoy the pics. Well, we can't see the pics on the podcast, but we did enjoy them, Barry, from South Wales. Thanks very much for sending that in.
Does Joe have a lady lair?
It sounds a bit dodgy. My man cave.
Yes,
and my lady lair.
Yes. I've not heard lady lair before, but
great.
I'm picking it up now.
Well, I think my whole house is my wife's lady lair.
Right.
Just,
And does she being happy make you happy?
Yes.
And that's it. Balance. that's how it works.
My man cave is now Selhurst Park.
Right.
That's my man cave.
Yeah.
Our next email is from Nicole and is one about collecting things, but also about how collecting things can be meaningful. Nicole says, hello, Rob, Dave and Nath, /Rob, Nathan, Dave. /Dave, Nathan, Rob, and Nicole then goes on with all of the possible combinations of our names. But the Rob one came first.
Yes.
I just wanted to reach out to say thank you for the latest episode of Being Shaped by Fandom. I've been an Access fan for years and I've listened to this podcast from the start and I've enjoyed every episode, even though I've disagreed with some of your thoughts on certain aspects of some of the films. I mean, that's obviously no one's going to agree with everything. No. Please disagree away. We disagree with each other.
No, we don't.
Very good. I was about to say, yes, we do. But I've never felt like I had to email in like I have today. My story of fandom is not about being a fan at all, but about a memory of the past. Now, back when Phantom Menace was released, KFC in Australia had cards for them, which you got with purchases. I was not, and am not, a Star Wars fan. My favourites are the original 3, and I also watched the prequel trilogy, so 1 to 6, but don't care about the others and haven't watched these in decades. But I was looking forward to the new movies they were doing back then, and had talked about going to see them at the movies. We don't say going to the cinema really here in Australia, we say going to the movies.
Fair enough.
So the year Phantom Menace released, for Christmas, I received from my younger brother the first 10 of these collector's cards in a frame that my dad had made. A 15-year-old paying attention to what his older sister liked. Imagine that. My brother had a mate who worked at KFC at the time, so he just got handfuls of packets of cards until he had them all. I hadn't thought of this gift in over 20 years. It's been wrapped in plastic on the top shelf of my wardrobe, hidden away, because a year and a half later, my brother decided the world was a better place without him in it. And a few years after that, my father had an accident that left him in a bad state. But now, even though I'm crying writing this, it's happy tears, remembering that they did actually love me and finding the good memories again. So thank you and sorry for the length of this email. P.S. Don't watch or talk about the Twilight movies. They just suck so bad. And I'd have to skip those episodes. Cheers, Nicole. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing that. That must have been a very difficult email for you to write. And I am very glad that through our podcast, you've been able to remember that very thoughtful gift from your brother. I can't imagine giving my sister when I was 15 a gift so thoughtful and bespoke.
No, exactly. That's it. It's the thought that counts, and that is actually genuinely very thoughtful. Hopefully it might make it off the shelf and
I hope so.
And out into your life.
It's funny in a way, isn't it? Thinking about, the actual value of those little cards in money terms. Not a lot. You got them free from KFC, but when they're attached to a thing you like, or in Nicole's case, she doesn't like Star Wars, but just because of who they were from and the thought behind it, and the collectible nature of it, and the frame actually made by her dad, turns it into something that's
a treasure
of big value and importance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much, Nicole, for that email. A small email to finish us off. this is interesting. This is from Jack Smith, who has a live podcast suggestion. Hello, Red Shirts. I was wondering if you have considered some type of live podcast members of the community could purchase tickets for, mainly as it would be another way to show support for the team. I have no idea what kind of format would be suitable or what themes you'd explore. Maybe it's a good question to pose in the Patreon chat or on the pod between yourselves. Hope everyone on the team and the community are well. Thanks, Commander Jack.
Well, Jack, we've definitely talked about
considered it, yes.
doing some live event. I think the biggest problem is like that we have our listeners are all over the place, and how do we do a live event that most people can? Are there enough people in the area? Are our fans all over the world? Would people come? Would people come, Rob? I'm worried no one would come.
I don't know. We should just try. And if only 10 people come, then we probably won't do it again. But, I mean, yes, we've definitely considered it. I think what we have thought about is potentially hiring out like a cinema somewhere that enough people could get to, and doing a screening of a film where everyone watches the film and then we record a live episode of the podcast immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And invite discussion from the audience as well. And I think that would be great.
I think that would be good.
I'd love to do it. So we will look into it. For sure.
Definitely. And if you've got any ideas for live events that might be, or formats for live events, please do email them in and pass them along, stick them in the Patreon, whatever. We'd love to talk about it. But it's definitely something we'd like to do at some point.
And just to sign us off, I had to include this. This isn't an email. This is a comment on Patreon.
Right, okay.
We've had. And it's from Liam Hardy, who says, well, I did my Mailtrix Reloaded rewatch. I have a confession. I watched this film a lot when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. Now, many years later, and as a 38-year-old man, this viewing was the first time I realised the cake gave the woman an orgasm. I thought she shat herself.
Oh, my God.
I love that so much.
Oh, my God. Wow.
I just love the thought of that. I mean, watching it as a teenager. Oh, she's had to get up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
To clean herself up. Well, she has had to do that, I guess.
And the sort of cheeky wink of what's his face. I wrote this program myself. It makes them shit themselves.
Watch as she cuts into the cake.
Must have been so confused then as to later where
every bite and then an explosion of shit.
Diarrhea. Was he also confused about why he'd then gone to the bathroom? Like, he must be helping out.
Good to go. To the bath. I guess that went over his head probably as well as a teenager.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I'm also just as a 38-year-old man. Oh, I see what's happening.
But was it
now.
upon watching the movie again, or was it upon us talking about it that
I don't know.
Realised?
I've enjoyed that a lot though. That made me laugh so much when I read that comment.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Are there any other examples of things you watched as a kid that, upon rewatching as an adult, you realised that as a child you didn't quite understand what was going on?
Yeah. I can't think of any examples, but there's tons of things.
I think of a bunch of stuff.
I understood.
Not like specific examples, but Jurassic Park, for instance. We mentioned it a little bit in the previous episode. Whenever there was anyone talking, I was like, boring.
Yeah.
Get to the next bit, please.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of dialogue I just didn't understand. And now watching the film as an adult, you actually understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And,
I can remember watching The Empire Strikes Back with my friend, and we would basically just fast forwarding any time Yoda was on the screen.
What?
Because it was all like about the Force and stuff, and it was like,
God.
I just want to go back to the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon was like,
You are not a true Star Wars fan.
It was in an asteroid field, and Darth Vader's there.
Yoda's great for kids. He's like a fun puppet.
He's fun puppet, and then he's very serious, wise man.
Can't believe you didn't like Yoda.
It's not that I didn't like Yoda. It was like, I'm just saying. It was like, show me a dinosaur.
Let's get to
Yoda is the.
Yoda's like the. Anyway, let's not get into this.
thought you'd understand.
There'll be lots of Star Wars discussion when we do eventually get around to doing Star Wars.
By
Sure.
the way, I now love Yoda, and I love that movie, and I could never dream of fast forwarding. I just wanted you to know.
I bet you'd fast forward the bit in The Last Jedi where he appears as a Force ghost and hits Luke on the head with a stick.
I've forgotten about that. Just fast forward that whole movie.
When we were watching that in the cinema, I was thinking to myself, Dave's going to be loving this. I honestly thought, this is fantastic.
That's what the filmmakers thought
This is
too.
fantastic. He's like Puppet Yoda again.
Yeah.
He looks like he did in the original trilogy, and he's got the kooky sort of eccentric personality. They made him CG and serious and boring in the prequels.
Yes.
And here I was like, it's like the old Yoda's back. Dave is going to be absolutely loving this.
Well,
And
Yoda's not really that kooky. That's when he's pretending.
The first time you see him, he's like,
Yeah, but he's not Yoda then. Luke doesn't know who he is. He's like, I'm looking for a Jedi Master. And he's like, oh, Yoda you seek. And, and he's like, yeah, not you, little old man. And then he's like, I'm Yoda. And then he's like, very boring. Not very boring. Very, very, dull.
I don't believe it. That is why you fail.
That's one of my favourite moments.
Great, yeah.
Ever.
Just brings it out.
So good.
Shows his power for the first time.
The music in that bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to save it for when we actually do it. Yeah. Like, that is a top three all timer for me.
Well, there we go. Thank you everyone for your fantastic mail. Please do keep it coming. Our email address is redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com. Please do continue chatting to us on Patreon. We're also on X and Blue Sky if you want to drop us a message on social media. We will be back next Monday with our episode on the Mailtrix Revolutions. So do join us for that, and then we'll be finishing off our Mailtrix series with the Mailtrix Resurrections. Just got to make sure I get the names of those films correct.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you very much everyone for your continued support. Thank you for listening. We will see you again in the next episode. You've been listening to Red Shirt Cinema Club. If you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just check the link in the description. We'd also love to hear from you. Email us at redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com or follow us on social media. We'll be back with another episode next Monday. See you then.